Welcome to the deep dive. If you've been following the shifts in the auto industry, you know the electric vehicle revolution is, well, it's more than just sleek designs and clean energy promises.
Hmm.
It's fundamentally reshaping economies, supply chains, even sort of geopolitical power.
It really is.
Today, we're digging into the headlines, trying to reveal some surprising facts from a stack of sources we've got on the global EV market.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating, sometimes, pretty brutal picture. Our sources paint. We'll be looking at everything from, intense competition, the global power players,
Right.
to the ripple effects of these really aggressive price wars on industries and even like national ambitions.
So our mission for you today is to get beyond the surface stuff. We want to help you understand what's really going on behind the scenes.
Exactly.
What do these massive shifts mean for you as a consumer, for the industries scrambling to adapt, and for countries trying to become, well, the next big EV hub?
Well, the first thing our sources make incredibly clear is just how explosive this EV market truly is. In 2024, global EV sales, they soared past 17 million units.
Wow.
Yeah, making up over 20% of all new car sales worldwide. That's huge.
20% already.
And the projections for 2025, they suggest an even faster acceleration. We could be hitting 22 million units. That's like a 25% jump year over year.
That's incredible growth. But what really jumped out at me in the sources was the geographic concentration. Asia. It's firmly established itself as the global hub for EV battery production.
Oh, absolutely.
Our sources show back in 2022, all top 10 global battery manufacturers headquartered in Asia, primarily China, South Korea, Japan.
Yeah, it's not just a minor lead, it's profound dominance. When you actually look at the market shares for EV batteries in 2022, China alone, nearly 56%.
56%.
Yeah. South Korean companies held about 26%, and Japanese firms took, well, the rest.
That level of concentration in such a vital industry, it definitely raises questions, right? About supply chains, future competition.
Resilience, all of that.
And when you look at the names driving those numbers, I mean, it makes perfect sense. You've got CATL from China, the undisputed global leader. They captured 34% of the market in 2022, right? Up from 32% the year before.
Yep. And their batteries are everywhere. Hyundai,
Yeah.
BMW, Honda, even Tesla for their Shanghai production.
Yeah.
And following them, you've got LG Energy Solution from South Korea, number 2, with 14%. And that's even after that big $1.9 billion payout to GM over the Chevy Bolt batteries.
Right, I remember that.
Then there's BYD, another Chinese giant, third place with 12%. They're really known for their innovative blade battery safety, longevity, high energy density. Panasonic from Japan, they're a major supplier to Tesla. Been working with them since 2014 on the Gigafactory. They held 10%.
Still significant.
Definitely. Then you have South Korean companies SK Innovation and Samsung SDI holding 7% and 5% respectively. Both have really ambitious plans for the future. And then other Chinese players like CLB Technology, Guoxan High-Tech, Sunrota, SVOLT, they round out that top 10 list.
So it's crystal clear from these numbers. Asia, particularly China, has forged this incredible lead in EV battery production. But how? How did they get so dominant so quickly?
Well, the sources point to this really strategic five-pronged approach. It's redefined the industry.
5 prongs. Okay, what are they?
Right. First, intense government support.
Yep.
And we're talking massive long-term investment, over 534 billion Thai baht. That's over 13 years. Plus huge subsidies, tax breaks, building infrastructure.
Wow.
They even set clear targets, and offered government contracts like the BYD example, converting Shenzhen's entire fleet of 16,000 buses to electric.
16,000. Okay, that's serious commitment. What's number 2?
Second, really strong supply chain control. China basically vertically integrated. From the raw materials they control, over 36% of global lithium production, 70% of cobalt concessions.
70%.
Yeah, all the way through to battery cell production and even recycling. This gives them incredible cost control, quality assurance, and lets them innovate really fast.
Okay, so government support, supply chain control.
Yeah.
What else?
Third, a relentless focus on battery tech.
Yeah.
Especially leading the way in cost-effective lithium iron phosphate LFP batteries. And the scale,
Yeah.
it's just astonishing. China's battery production capacity is 558 million kilowatt hours.
Okay.
Compare that to the U.S.'s 44 million. It's 10 times more.
10 times, right?
Yep.
That puts it in perspective. So number 4.
Fourth, They've masterfully leveraged their huge domestic market. I mean, over half of new car sales in China in 2022 were EVs.
Over half.
Yeah, that creates these immense economies of scale, which just pushes costs down even further.
Okay. And the fifth one?
And finally, heavy R&D investment. They're constantly pushing innovation. You see companies like NIO developing battery swap systems, trying to get rid of charging wait times. It's a comprehensive all-out strategy.
It really sounds like a perfect storm, almost.
And this huge success, this market dominance, particularly by the Chinese players, it's directly fueled what our sources are calling the EV price war.
The price war.
And it's proving to be a real double-edged sword for the whole industry.
So BYD, now the world's largest EV maker by volume, they've been a key instigator here, right? Especially in China, and notably in places like Thailand.
Oh, yeah. In 2025 alone, they've already launched multiple campaigns. Some models seeing price cuts of up to a third off the original price across 22 different models.
A third. That's incredibly aggressive.
It is. And the impact in Thailand, for example, was immediate. BYD cut prices for its Dolphin model by up to 160,000 Thai baht, the ATT03, up to 340,000 baht cut in June, July 2024.
Wow.
And competitors like Neta, they quickly followed suit. Had to, really. Significant reductions from them, too.
But what's interesting here, some analysts are saying these drops aren't just about aggressive competition.
Right.
They might also reflect genuinely decreasing production costs, especially for batteries.
Exactly. If costs are down, brands have a choice, right? Cut prices to grab market share or keep prices stable and boost profits. And BYD's move to actually reduce the price of their new batteries by up to 40%. That suggests a real reduction in core manufacturing costs. It makes those big price cuts more sustainable for them, at least.
So what does this all mean for you, the consumer? I mean, on the surface, for new buyers, it seems like a dream, right? Advanced tech, more accessible prices, lower monthly payments.
Yeah, absolutely. We even saw BYD sell out its entire Dolphin stock in just a week after one of those major price cuts.
Crazy. And well, to be fair, price reductions aren't totally new in the car world.
True.
They've just kind of moved from those, secret deals with the salesperson in the back room
The haggling.
to these very public, sweeping announcements that hit everyone. But while the immediate savings look good, our sources are highlighting several, let's say, hidden costs to these aggressive price wars, things that often get overlooked.
Definitely. Think about it like this. Imagine you buy a luxury handbag for, say, 1 million Thai baht.
Okay.
Then 3 months later, the price drops to 700,000. You'd feel pretty cheated, right?
Oh, yeah. Furious.
Well, that's precisely what's happening in the EV market. Our sources tell this story of a BYD Atto 3 owner bought at full price, felt like horns grew on their head when the price just plummeted.
Ouch.
Frequent, severe price cuts like that, they just erode the brand's image. They erode trust in the initial pricing. And it could even lead new customers to just wait, expecting more cuts down the line.
Yeah, why buy now if it'll be cheaper next month? And it must be a nightmare for current owners.
Oh, it's brutal for resale value. A car you bought for 1.2 million baht maybe a year ago, it might now be worth only 800,000 baht, brand new, before you even account for depreciation from driving it.
So that expected depreciation, maybe 50-60% over 3 years, that could easily become 70-80% or even more.
Exactly. It completely disrupts personal financial planning. And it makes banks and finance companies much more cautious about lending for those specific brands, too.
Okay, so brand trust, resale value.
Boy.
What else? Where does the money for these huge cuts actually come from?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe the 100,000 bag question here. Automakers, they might pressure their suppliers hard to cut costs,
Right. Squeeze the supply chain.
which could potentially lead to lower-grade materials being used, or less stringent quality control. Maybe even skipping certain production steps.
And you wouldn't necessarily see that right away.
No, not immediately. But it could lead to faster degradation down the road. Issues with critical parts like motors, batteries, things you really don't want failing.
And what about things like R&D, innovation?
Well, slimmer profit margins mean companies, especially the smaller ones, might have to cut those non-revenue generating buckets, like research and development.
Okay.
And that's not just about slowing down one cool new feature. It could fundamentally hobble the whole industry's ability to evolve. We could end up with less capable vehicles in the future because the money wasn't there to develop them.
And after-sales service, too, I imagine.
Big time. Fewer service centers, maybe? Longer waits for parts because they don't keep enough stock? Less skilled technicians, perhaps? I mean, a cheap car that you can't get fixed properly, It's just an expensive paperweight, really.
Yeah, that totally undermines the value.
It does. So it really begs the question, who truly benefits from these price wars in the long run? Because it's not a game for everyone.
Right, it's for the giants.
Exactly. Giants with deep pockets, willing to take losses maybe to gain market share, smaller or newer EV brands, even aspiring local manufacturers, they might not survive this kind of crazy competition.
So they could be forced to merge or just exit the market completely.
Yeah. And if the market gets monopolized by just a few big players, consumer choice goes down, and guess what? Prices could eventually creep back up again, negating that initial benefit.
Okay, let's zoom in a bit and bring this home. Let's look at Thailand's ambitious EV journey as a specific example.
Good idea.
Thailand has its 30 at 30 policy. The goal is 30% of total auto production to be zero-emission vehicles, ZEVs, by 2030, trying to establish the country as a regional EV hub.
Yeah, and it's structured in phases. Phase 1, 2021-2022, was about creating demand. Phase 2, which is roughly now 2023-2025, is developing the industry, local battery production, and then Phase 3, 2026-2030, is producing for export.
And to make this happen, the government's offering pretty significant incentives under schemes like EV 3.5 running from 2024 to 2027.
Right. Things like subsidies, up to 100,000 baht per car for EVs under 2 million baht with decent battery capacity. Reduced import duties, like up to 40% off. Lower excise taxes, too, down from 8% to just 2%.
But there are strings attached, right? These incentives come with local production obligations.
Big strings. Basically, if you import one EV under this scheme, you have to produce 2 locally by 2026. And that ratio increases to 3 locally produced cars by 2027.
Okay, push for local manufacturing. So, unsurprisingly, Chinese EV brands are dominating Thailand's EV market right now, holding over 70% of the combined share.
Over 70%, yeah. Several of them, BYD, NIDA, Great Wall Motor, MG, they've all set up local production facilities. The combined annual capacity is around 750,000 vehicles. So on the surface, it looks like the strategy is working, drawing investment.
And it's always a but. The hyper-competition is spilling over, causing problems.
It definitely is. Take NIDA. They were one of the earliest Chinese brands to enter Thailand. Now, they're reportedly struggling to meet those local production obligations we just talked about.
Why? What happened?
Well, their parent company, back in China, apparently entered bankruptcy proceedings, which led to NIDA missing payments to dealers in Thailand, facing lawsuits. It's messy.
Oh, wow.
And our sources show NIDA's share of EV registrations in Thailand just plummeted. It went from a peak of 12% in 2023 down to just 4% in the first 5 months of 2025. New registrations dropped nearly 50%.
So that really highlights the fragility, doesn't it? Especially for these maybe second-tier Chinese brands when they face slim margins and intense price wars outside of China.
Exactly. It's tough out there.
And these dynamics, they must have significant implications for Thailand as a whole. Given its long history as a major auto production and export hub, mostly for traditional cars.
Huge implications. The traditional Japanese automakers, who've been dominant for decades with internal combustion engine or ICE vehicles, they're at a distinct disadvantage. They don't get those same juicy EV subsidies. So some, like Suzuki and Subaru, are actually exiting local production entirely. They'll just import fully built cars instead.
Wow, pulling out of manufacturing. And what about the local Thai suppliers, the parts makers?
That's where it gets really concerning for Thailand's economy. Get this, a Thai-produced ICE pickup truck. It has about 90% local content, lots of Thai parts.
Right.
An EV, though, it has far fewer parts overall, thousands versus tens of thousands. And the Chinese EV manufacturer is setting up shop. They largely just import components directly from China.
So the local suppliers aren't getting much of the action.
Very little. Our sources say only about 12 out of 660 Thai auto parts suppliers can currently produce EV-specific components.
Only 12 out of over 600.
Yeah. So many local suppliers are having to reduce operations, shifting from working 5 or 6 days a week down to just 3. And at least 12 have already closed completely because orders for traditional parts have dropped by around 40%.
That's a silent economic earthquake happening, isn't it?
It really is. The auto industry contributes 11% to Thailand's GDP, employs over 750,000 people. And the sources reveal the country's overall production target for 2025, already cut by 200,000 units, down from 1.9 million to 1.7 million.
So this rapid shift, combined with the aggressive price wars, it's not just about sales figures. It's hitting jobs, livelihoods, even the stock market, with auto and auto parts stocks taking a hit.
Precisely. It's a complex transition with real consequences.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. To recap, we've seen how the global EV market is absolutely surging, led by Asia, particularly China's strategic dominance. But this rapid growth is tangled up with these intense price wars. And while those wars make EVs seem more accessible for you, the consumer, at least initially,
Right, lower sticker price.
they carry these significant long-term risks. Risks for brand value, for existing owners' finances, potentially for product quality and long-term reliability, for innovation.
And for overall market stability, too.
Right.
Especially hitting the smaller players in the traditional auto industries like we saw in Thailand.
Yeah. So the EV future, it's arriving at warp speed. It's bringing incredible advancements, challenging, well, pretty much every established norm in the industry.
Definitely exciting times, but challenging, too.
Exactly. But as we navigate this transition with all its aggressive pricing and shifting power dynamics, maybe here's something to think about. What long-term trade-offs are we, the consumers, really making for the lure of that lower price tag today?
That's a good question.
And maybe, how much will a truly sustainable EV future depend not just on ruthless competition, but maybe on more collaboration and shared innovation?